Sean, are you at Cranmore this winter?
Sorry?
Are you at Cranmore?
Yes, yes.
Frank, did you ask me a question?
Skiing's fantastic.
I mean, cross country, but I haven't downhill yet.
Finally got some good cross country skiing.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi there again.
Thank you. Do you have all your handouts, Frank?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
I have everything right out in front of me, ready to go.
all right.
Locked and loaded.
Locked and loaded. I'm still admitting a few people here, so just give me a couple minutes and then, or a minute, and we'll start.
No problem.
I know this, for the people that are in the audience here, it's gonna be a little tough possibly to hear the folks that are on Zoom, so I'll try to repeat questions if they come from folks that are on Zoom, and we'll go from there. So it is 3:31, and I will call the meeting to order. The first thing on our agenda is always to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So I would like to have us all salute the flag, yeah. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me all right, Barbara?
I can.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I might mute you if they don't like what you're saying, but otherwise I can hear you fine.
I get that.
Get that a lot, huh?
All right, so the next part of our agenda is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, and John, you were not here, so Frank, did you get to review the minutes, and do you have any questions?
Yes, I did. And I would say they're fine.
Okay, John, did you get to review them at all?
I did.
Okay. I will take motion, or I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting from January 18th, 2022. You have to second that, Frank.
Oh, I'll second you. Sorry.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. And then you can sign those when you come in next.
Same.
And then we had a yes?
Is John there?
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was going to do it or not. Hi, John.
Hi.
He's live. And so,
Barely.
there's something sitting next to me. So I do want to say that because of COVID restrictions personally amongst us, that's why Frank is on Zoom and John and I are in person. So we have two people in person, which is certainly enough for a quorum, but Frank is on the call as well. So I just want to state that for the minutes. The second thing is we had a non-public, which was on January 18th, according to RSA 91-A:3-2A, and we decided to keep those minutes sealed. So I will make a motion to seal those minutes, and Frank, if you will second.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Stay.
Absolutely. You weren't here. Okay. On to number 4. The first thing is the fire station update. So we had a meeting at our last meeting, we had a discussion about the fire station. And Frank, you had some points that you made. John was not here, so we decided, like before, since it is such a large discussion item, that we would make sure all 3 selectmen were here to either make a recommendation to have the warrant article put on the ballot this year or not. And at the last meeting, I was for it and you were not for it, and so John would need to weigh in. I would just like to make a few comments, and I would like to open for discussion and see if you two have any comments as well. My comment is that the reason why the recommendation is coming to the selectmen to put a warrant article for the bond for the fire station is to get the public and the taxpayers and voters to have more information about a new fire station. We're not voting to spend $5.7 million. We're voting to have the ability to purchase a bond to build a new fire station. As we've said, the $5.7 million is the number that we had to go with based on our documentation and the quote that we have from the architectural firm. We feel very confident that we can build a fire station for much less than that. And that's the only number I can give you, but that's what I know from the research that we did. The opportunity for the selectmen to learn more about the fire station committee's work has always been there. We've had public sessions, we've had documentation, we have an open door policy where any of this information could have been obtained and looked at. And the other thing is the committee was tasked with a fire station, not a public works building. We also put away the thought of putting any more money into an old building that is already dilapidated at best. So that's where I feel like the selectmen should be willing to put a warrant article out to build a new fire station. Is it a large amount? Absolutely. Is it a large amount for one department? Absolutely. Do we think as a committee we explored all of the opportunities and options? Yes, we do. We felt very confident. Was it a unanimous vote? No, it wasn't. But we came out of the meeting feeling good that we were going to make a good recommendation to the select board. That being said, as a committee member. That's my 2 cents today. And Frank and John, I guess, John, I'd like to hear from you since you were absent at the last meeting and see what your opinion is.
Well, I appreciate everything and all the work that everybody's done on it. I think that the price tag for me was a lot. I understand bringing it forward makes it a vote on, the townspeople to accept it. However, I usually am in favor of doing things like that. However, being such, I don't know, I just talked with a couple of people about, the planning of, the whole town as a whole, trying to make a plan for the future like we do with the vehicles. Presently, we, budget, do capital reserve funds. Not I'm asking for a capital reserve fund, but, to make this all work, we have a long-range plan. And as much as I would love to have a new fire station, new police station, a lot of other things, I just think that things like that have to be planned out a little bit more and spaciously, so we don't get hit with a whole bunch of buildings coming up at once. That being said, I'm personally going to vote against it today, but obviously people can do the signature process and still bring it to the town. It's not dead in the water. If there are that many people that want to do that, and I guess that's just my feeling on it.
Appreciate it. Bill Kelly, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I'll try to make it short, but I had 3 rather lengthy questions that were more directly headed towards Selectman Crucio. I'd like to just make 2 clarifications and a comment, and I'll make it easy. First off, I totally disagree with the fact that Frank 3 times in public has said, you don't have to be against the fire department to be against the fire station. They're separate issues. The fire department in this town has had excellent support from its townspeople.
Sure.
The fire station is a town building. It's not owned and managed by the fire department. The fire department is volunteers with very minimal stipend that takes their time to save life and property for the town of Jackson. And for the next eons of years, there will be fire protection in the town of Jackson, and there will be a fire station. It has nothing to do with the fire department as say, even though the fire department themselves have at meetings stated, yes, we need, and even for Selectman DeFrucio, right, you hear this, you said something has to be done. The problem is, 3 years we've spent on this. I've sat through 2 town plans in 16 years on the planning board. We did a town charrette 11 or 12 years ago. We've done all kinds of things. Have we followed anything we've done? No. We have a beautiful library, but the placement of that library hindered a tremendous factor to cause us an $190,000 site cost for a new fire station. We can plan for the next 10 years, which I think we should. It's not going to change the fact that that fire station is in desperate need of replacement. Nobody's going to argue. The problem comes down to this, the money. At 5.7, even though we think it's inflated and we feel if we get it soon, we could probably cut that. When is it ever going to have a price tag that Frank, you, and now John, you would accept and support? And I talked to Jay Henry again today, and he told me, you have my permission to quote this. His negativism was not against the building of a fire station. It was the cost was high. He didn't like the cost, number one. And number two, as he stated a week ago, we don't have the support of the selectmen. The selectmen were elected to manage this town and manage property. We have a dilapidating, unsafe, non-code compliant building, and we have a building code inspector that goes out and enforces building codes. We have a planning board that looks at codes, yet we have a building that we can't even safely work in because of code problems. That is, in my mind, not managing very well for the selectmen as a group. That's what I wanted to say. And as far as the selectmen being against, the selectmen have always given the fire department itself support. We have equipment, we do very well. And I wanted to make that clear. And my question is, if you don't vote to put this on the warrant, it is what it is. But what do we do? The committee has done everything it can do. In order to come back another year and present something to the Board of Selectmen, there's got to be work done by somebody. Are the selectmen prepared to take on that work, number one? Are they prepared to either reappoint the committee or keep the committee? And do we need to go out and get some extra help from either a current architect or a new one to get some type of a plan B that we've already eliminated to bring back? Because you've got nothing in this budget tonight.
All right.
And I think that has to be addressed, and I was hoping to get a few answers on that. But I think there's never going to be a good time. And we all know that interest rates are going up. We all know that the school has already made it very clear they got a huge project that could be coming next year. When is there a good time?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, did you want to comment?
Pretty much said everything I need to say. When is there a good time? There might not be a good time. It may be that we just have to repair or make a better fire station than what we have now in terms of the facility. But I believe, again, and I said this before, about we have to take this sort of holistic approach and look at everything that we need in our town and decide where we want to allocate dollars and what we really need. Okay? I support the fire station and the fire department. The fire department, I've always supported. We're going to be spending $700,000 in a new fire engine pretty soon. So I still say that we need more time to look at it, talking with the school, talking with other departments. And yes, it may be another year or two or three, and it may not be a new fire station. It may be repairs and all the things that need to be done with the sprinkler system, new electrical, and other things that Jay has shown me, Chief Henry has shown me when I've been in the fire department. Although I didn't go to the open house, I've had my sort of personal open house several times with Jay. So I'm still a no vote for now. Okay?
Okay.
But I do believe that we have to do something.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Any other comments from Hank Dresch?
I'd just like to say I agree with Chairman Campbell's comments about the need for this, the work that we spent on it, and the fact that the building is really unfit for use by the fire department in any productive or safe way. To say that, oh, the town has so many of these unknown needs, and we can't concentrate on the fire department right at the moment, it's just a typical delaying action that you see in a lot of organizations, and that's just nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Let the townspeople decide whether they're going to support something like that. As you mentioned, we don't have to spend the $5.7 million. That's not the decision that we're asking people to do. It's really we're asking people to support the concept of a new fire station. And then let's work out what that cost will be in the future.
Has there ever been a dollar figure for rehabbing the fire department thrown out? What was that number?
Jerry, we got somewhere over around $1 million when we first started looking at it, and I think when we started looking at that dollar amount, we said, why would we put $1 million, 25% of a possible cost of a new station into an already old building, so we sort of left it at that, thinking.
But initially it wasn't 20, what was the approximate dollar in doing a new one? I know it's grown to 5.7.
Oh, yeah, we never really had any number.
you never had any
We
number?
had, pie in the sky numbers, because you think if we build an X number of square footage building at this number per square foot, but that was 3 years ago. And then, COVID and dollar increases for materials and all things, contract labor, et cetera, it went through the roof. And that's why we're very comfortable knowing that as things level out and go down, that we're gonna be able to build it cheaper. But we never had any other quotes on a new station than that, so. Bill?
However, if I may, there's a couple points I didn't say.
Hold on, Frank, go ahead.
I spent some time today talking to the Secretary of State's office and the Department of Revenue Administration on bond and clarifications. Two things. First off, the newest stuff out of Secretary of State in print still talks about a 2/3 majority on a bond over $100,000. That's incorrect. The legislature in the 2020 session changed that to a 3/5. Simple English, 100 people, 2/3 is 67 people to vote to pass. A 3/5 is 61. So it's a little.
Okay, but we're getting ahead of ourselves on the bond.
Number
part,
number two, the other thing that's been clarified by both of those, I tried to get Nadia's office, they haven't called back. The selectmen have the authority, or would ask the authority from the town on a warrant article, permission to grant them authority to seek out and buy a bond and expend a bond. And the number, it is very acceptable to have that article written not to exceed a certain number. So if you, just information, especially for John now, if 5.7 is the number, if you decide to put it on the warrant, and 5.7 is the number, if you write the article correctly, or even an amendment, as long as it doesn't change the intent, it's still, the intent is to build a new fire station, up to 5.7, you can't spend a penny more. But 5-6 months from now, and you've got 5 years to rescind a bond before it expires. So you've got plenty of time to buy a bond. You might be able to cut that down to build a new fire station and not have to buy a 5.7. It might only be a $4 million bond, but I just wanted you to know that you have that leeway as selectmen, providing you get approval. The last comment I was saying, I'll be quiet, I think it's a critical enough item. I think the justification to bring it to the people is there. If the people speak in favor, great. If they speak against, great. We move on, and then we take Plan B.
Okay.
But that's my view.
All right, thanks, Bill. Frank?
I just want to comment on Peter Benson, and I kind of resent the fact that he thinks that this is just some sort of stalling tactic. Okay, this has nothing to do with being a stalling tactic. This is what I've been saying about looking at our entire town and talking about where our expenditures are best made. Okay, and also, we forget that there was a committee. Didn't hear a lot about it. I know, Peter, you say there were opportunities. We didn't get any minutes or anything on that, but I did find out that a couple of people didn't vote for it, including the chief of the fire department, not wanting to bring this up now. So if the chief speaks, the rest of you people should have said, all right, Chief Henry, we're with you. We understand you want to wait. There's more time for this, and go forward. I just think it's a slap in the face of the chief to go against what he wanted to do. And also, I think Jerry Dougherty, the 8th, is also part of that. So.
Okay, I'm just going to clarify so we don't slander Peter Benson, because it was Hank Dresch, just to make things fair, that was commenting before, not Peter Benson. But it's okay, it's all right. All right, so let's. Okay, so we can talk a lot more this afternoon, but unless anyone else has any other comments, I think we'll just move forward. And Darlene, are you raising your hand? No? Okay. All right, then I think we are we know what the intent is, unless you've changed your mind in the last 30 seconds.
I haven't.
Okay. So,
Fortunately.
we will not be putting a warrant article out for the fire station this year. All right, our next item is the hazard mitigation review. Emily?
So I hope that you all have received the information. What information?
If you want, it's up to you.
Yeah, so every year, since we did the hazard mitigation plan, we have to do an annual update on the progress that we made on the action items. So I had the form that needed your sign that you had reviewed some of the different progress that we've made on the different action items. I would just like to bring your attention to action item number 7 on the trainings. Both Deirdre Braun, the deputy EMD, and Beth, who's our deputy health officer, they have both passed their firefighter 1 course.
Yay, I know that was very
So
intense.
that's very exciting.
Yes, very exciting.
And so unless you have any other questions, I did note at the end of the update on those actions, some different expenses that might qualify for some of the ARPA funding. So that's for discussion at a later time. But
Okay.
if you all had any questions,
I don't have questions, and do you have any questions?
Nope.
Frank, did you get to review, or do you have any questions?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
really.
I am happy that you have some thoughts on the ARPA funds, because that's going to have to be an agenda item coming up soon for ideas on what to use those funds for.
okay, and
So,
that's what I was kind of wondering too, when that was going to be, so.
after the budgets.
What's that?
After the budgets.
After the budget, yeah, okay.
Okay, then I will take a motion to approve the hazard mitigation review and update for the year.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
There we go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right.
Aye.
And that's one signature, so. All right, the next item is the Helfridge land swap. And this is, did you get a chance to look at this?
No.
And Frank, do you have the information about this land swap?
We spoke about this last week. Is this the same land swap that you
Nope.
came up with a price?
No, this is a totally different one that we've been going over for quite a while. This is about a swap for 2 pieces of property that are basically about the same size and close to each other. So it's just an approval of the land swap, and Sean Bergeron is the consultant on this. That's provided all of the plan documents and sketches and everything. So I think we just have to finalize that. There was one revision that was made to clean the existing culvert.
Yes. Okay.
All right, so are you good with this then?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm going to make a motion to approve the Helfrich land swap matter.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Awesome. I don't think we need signatures on anything there. All right, the next item is not anything we have documentation on. This is just a sort of an internal goodwill thing. The chief, the police department has a cruiser that has sort of aged out, and they've replaced, and they were going to sell or get rid of. And the chief has decided and generously donated that cruiser to Kevin Bennett to use, because Kevin has been using his personal vehicle for years to do his job. So we are just going to be transferring that cruiser from the PD to the building inspector, and it doesn't have any financial impact because it's already on our books and on our insurance. And Chief, I really thank you for doing that.
Well, my pleasure. Kevin thanks me after he drives it for a while because it is pretty old.
It's, it's the thought that counts.
Make sure we take the blue lights off.
Well, I think we might switch them to red because Kevin goes to every fire call, even when he's working, so I.
True.
That's true. It could be like a multitask Jackson vehicle, so.
Yeah, so I got some ideas.
Yeah.
We'll keep the wheels turning.
How many lights is that gonna end up with? We'll see. No, so, thank you for that.
Excuse me, Chairman?
Yeah.
Can we ask the chief how many miles are on that?
How many miles are on that, chief?
That Chevy is a 2014, and it currently has 96,000, maybe 250, 96,250.
Thanks, chief.
It's a baby.
No,
Only 60.
that's an old thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, chief.
The newest car in my fleet, but that's okay.
That's we'll talk later. I've got a Subaru for sale.
Yeah, really.
Okay. All right. So the next thing on our agenda is the renewal of the annual tax anticipation note, also known as the TAN note. Every year we renew this note. We haven't had to use it, knock wood, but we do have it available. So if we do need any funds for anything but a fire station, we can use it. All right, so I will take a motion to renew our TAN note with Mascoma Bank, and again, it's never been used, but it's available if we need it.
I will make that motion.
I'll second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, here we go. All right, we have 2 short-term rental applications. Moving right along here. The first one is Arthur Began, and it is 82A Wentworth Hall Avenue, 3-bedroom condo, 3-bedroom tax card, advertises for 2-bedroom sleep 6, which is okay with us. So I will have take a motion to approve that short-term rental application.
I will make a motion to approve Arthur Began's 82A Wentworth Avenue's short-term rental.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the next one is for Jeanette Heidemann at 93A Dinsmore Road, 3-bedroom approved condo, 3-bedroom tax card. Vacasa is the rental company on this, and they're going to be providing the meals and rental tax number, and so we're renting it as a 1-bedroom with 2 people max, and that is okay to approve. So, motion please.
I will make a motion to approve Jeanette Heideman's short-term rental at 93A Dinsmore Road.
I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, on violation notices, we have Denaro, which is, I don't even have an address on this, but we're going to be filing a violation notice for operating a short-term rental without a permit. So we will be notifying them, and I will take a motion to file that violation.
I'll make that
I'll make a
motion.
motion to file the violation.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, the other pending is for Nani, and we are still waiting for documentation that they have applied for their meals and rentals tax number. So they're pending approval after they receive that. All right, so the next one is a parking complaint that we received for 18 Spring Street. We received 2 complaints because there were cars that had to be parked in an area that was, sorry, I'm pulling up some data here. There was it was an area that had snow issues, so the tenants parked in other people's driveways during the snow off of Spring Street. So it is plowed to the driveway map, and that's where the plowing stops. And so we did send a first violation notice, and Julie, is this a motion, something that we need to make a motion on to file the violation, or did we already?
You know, Julie put that on the agenda, so I'll have to check with her.
Okay, because it looks like it says the first violation, oh, I'm sorry, the first violation was sent, they already had one back in
Yeah,
March.
right.
I misread. So this is a second parking violation.
Right.
So the problem is, I guess, that the owner doesn't feel that they need to have the area plowed to get to their Airbnb or their short-term rental.
So they're parking out on the
So
road?
they're
or-
parking on the road or in other, guests are not able to make it, owners do not have plow or maintenance in road in winter, guests parked car on the property, on the other people's property down the road, so.
That's a road, as I understand.
Say that again?
Is that a private road, Spring Street? I think I read that.
I thought I read that it's a private road as well. Let me see if I can, I don't have any.
Maybe the chief will sign in on it.
Yeah, do you have any information on that, Chief Burley?
Yes, Spring Street is a private road, so we can't enforce parking violations other than parking as to block private driveways. Even the parking on the street can't be regulated like it can on Main Street and so forth. New Hampshire statutes do allow for enforcement and towing. If someone parks on private property, the owner of the private property can ask for the improperly parked vehicle to be towed and removed at the owner's expense. So that can be enforced, and we sometimes do that, but we can't write parking tickets on Spring Street. It's a private road.
Does it have to be passable for a fire truck or ambulance?
Well, vehicles could be towed, John, if they were causing that kind of problem. But as far as summonses for illegal parking, that can't be enforced. But we would tow cars if they were blocking ingress and egress.
So one of the complaints though says that the driver of the vehicle who got stuck while trying to back down the road asked if they could leave the car where it was for the night, and if the owner of the property that was nearby wasn't home, they wouldn't have been able to get out of their driveway the next day, so it had to be towed. So I think what the real point here is that a short-term rental owner is responsible for their tenants and the safety of their tenants and for their ability to get to their
Their responsibility, right?
Residents there. So being that there's no legal and police interaction, then I think we do need to file a parking complaint, which would be the second violation for this owner. So I'll take a motion if you guys both agree, or if you have any other comments.
I agree.
It seems pretty obvious.
Yeah,
I mean, you could have a
pay to
place for
have
them to park, you know?
Yes. All right, so I'll take a motion to file a second complaint against the owners of 18 Spring Street.
I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, yes, Hank.
The two other owners are named here. Who's the owner of 18 Spring Street?
The owner is Wanda Solkowski. There are two other people that filed complaints. So there's one owner, I believe, and two complainants. Does that make sense?
The other owners for B and C were identified. D, that name isn't identified. That was my question.
I'm not sure on that.
What was the question?
Who owns the property on 18 Spring Street? I do just show one owner on that.
Just Wanda.
Yeah. So we'll confirm that obviously when we file the complaint. And the other thing is who the contact person is on the conditional use permit, and because they're responsible, sometimes if they have a management company or like a Vacasa or something, but Wanda is the named owner on the first complaint that they received, and I believe she's the contact, but we'll confirm that before we send anything.
Barb, I'm trying to look now.
Okay. And did we do a motion? I'm sorry.
I don't think we did.
Okay, so would one of you make a motion to file a second complaint?
I will make a motion to file a
I'll
complaint.
make a motion.
Okay.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. That's unfortunate. All right, we don't have any new building or driveway permits, and we have our next budget meeting on next Tuesday, a week from today, for 3:30 select meeting, budget hearing number 2. Following that meeting, we will have a Zoom option as well on that meeting, and then the meeting following that is Tuesday, February 22nd, so that would be the fourth Tuesday, I believe, so. Yes, fourth Tuesday. So, are there any other public comments for this meeting before we go into the budget hearing?
Hey Barbara, you there?
Yes.
It's Jay.
Hi, Jay.
Hey, Keith.
One comment I wanted to make. We just had 3 members pass firefighter 1, which is about 900 hours between the 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So all 3 of them are now certified firefighters. So big hooray to them.
Yes, that is great news.
That'd be Beth, Deidre, and Brookie. So I just wanted to get that to the public that they completed everything, they just passed everything, and so that's great.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that, Jay. Kudos to them.
Dedicated people.
Penny Miller, do you have a question?
I do have a question. Wondering if Kevin Bennett will be allowed to take his new work vehicle home and use it personally. I am explicitly concerned about employees using work vehicles, taking them home. The wear and tear on the vehicles is a very real expense. Also makes the vehicle more at risk for damage and for an accident. And it's a real cost.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that question. We will cover that with Kevin, and I don't see any reason that he would need to. Unlike the fire chief, if you always want him to be available and have his, have his
Gear.
his vehicle and his gear ready, Kevin doesn't have that need as the building inspector. So that's a good point, but it will be covered just to make sure that the expectations are clear.
Also with the town crew.
Yes.
That vehicle as well. I have another question.
Yes.
As well.
Yep.
I'm just curious, I understand that the police department does a fair number of house checks, and I'm wondering if these are tallied separately as house check calls on your yearly summary, and if, to help lower the burden for the taxpayers, if the selectmen have considered charging for the house checks due to the amount of labor and wear and tear on vehicles.
Chief, did you want to address that?
Yes, of course. So to answer your first question, Penny, the house checks are tallied separately as a house check. They're listed every year. And this year, the listing will show that we did 884 residential checks. I can tell you that the residential, I would be strongly opposed to charging people for the service. They pay for a police department to be vigilant and to patrol. The house checks are in our patrol area. It doesn't cost us any more to check the house while we are working than it would just to drive by. And it has reduced residential burglaries to 0 for the 3 years in a row, which feel free to go on reports as I have, and you can't find a town report that shows 0 residential burglaries, at least in the last decade. So I think it's money well spent, and I think it's money that's already been paid for in the funding of the police department.
Thank you, Chief. Guess I hope as long as it doesn't increase the need for more police.
That's our normal route.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Keith, your oath, that was perfect. And I knocked on wood for you also.
Yes, I did too. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any other public comments or questions? All right. Oh, hi, Tom.
Yeah, hi Frank. I'm
Tom
actually,
Eastman is here.
yeah, masked up. So on the fire station proposal, does that leave it open? You were saying for a petition, or
Potentially.
where could it go? Was that you, John, who said that you could still petition? How would that work?
I believe it's 25 signatures to get it on the warrant article.
25 signatures from registered voters.
Resident voters,
Right.
yeah.
Yep.
Verified voters.
Right.
Okay. And how divided, yes, I know Jackson, but how, did you guys have any litmus test, whether in the community the support versus opposed? Is it 50-50? Do we have any idea?
No, I don't think we have any idea. When we had the public hearing, oh gosh, October, I believe it was,
We had two open houses.
to open
years,
it, but
yeah,
just,
and we did a complete resident mailer, very good mailer too, and we've done
right.
a lot of discussion.
But we didn't do any surveys that
No.
said yay or nay, so, you know, I guess it depends on who you talk to, because I thought we had a lot of positive reaction to the open houses that we had, but then I know Frank has expressed that some people that he's spoken to didn't feel like the dollar amounts made sense to move forward with. So we don't have anything firm, but it would be interesting, I guess,
Well,
to
it
know.
would be, from a standpoint of the committee, from my personal, not from the committee, excuse me, the open houses we've had and the majority of the comments that I've received in the almost 3 years that we've been on this have been overwhelming. Once people go inside the building, they see all of the problems, they say, you guys, this is crazy, you gotta have this.
Right,
And
well,
I'm
so
not
we
trying
don't,
to
yeah,
be
we don't have
prejudiced
anything
to it, but
definitive though.
It's been, but it hasn't been a large, in the last open house, we had what, 40 people maybe?
Yeah,
And the first one we had, I think, 30 to 40 people, again, different people, but
yeah,
we've had very good, and I would add that when we asked for the money for the study 3 years ago, it was overwhelming. It was not a negative, not even a question. It was
Yeah.
all just bang, so it's.
so.
That's true.
Okay, so the only other question we had was if you can definitely do a petition for something as large as that, and if there's any restrictions on that. So that's something that we'll have to look at, just to be sure that if someone decides to move forward with a petition, that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed to make sure it's legitimate. All right?
Thank you very much.
Of course, thanks, Tom. Any other questions, comments? All right, I will take a motion to adjourn the Selectmen's meeting and move into budget hearing number 1.
I will make that motion.
You gonna
I'll
say?
second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
It is 4:13 PM.
450.
Aye. And we're gonna move into budget hearing number 1. I will call that to order right now at 4:13 PM. Today, we are going to concentrate on the operating budget and not necessarily the warrant articles or anything else, because I feel like the operating budget is a pretty big task to cover on number 1. Does that sound fair to
Yeah,
you
that should
guys,
be
Frank?
hard to
and
do
John?
it.
Yeah.
Well, perfect.
Okay. So we do have copies of the budget on the website. When you click on the agenda, there's a link to the budgets, and there is also there are also copies in the back of the room with the agenda. So if you didn't pick one up there, one's there. I do want to make a few public comments myself before we start talking about the dollars. And whoever's already looked at the dollars will notice that the salaries went up, and not a small amount. There is not a flat 3% increase across the board like we have done in the past. So for this year, each department and each department head was asked to review their budgets and their salaries for their staff. And the way we did that was you could go to the New Hampshire Municipal website and look at the town's whether they were in New Hampshire, but whether or not they participate in the survey. If they didn't, of course, their numbers aren't there, but you could go to some of the other towns specifically and try to obtain information for their salaries. We also took a 6% increase in cost of living, which was approved by Social Security and is kind of the increase this year because of the cost of living for everything, cost of products, cost of groceries, cost of labor, etc. So we use that as another tool to measure our salaries and our increases. The other thing is we had some turnover in our highway department, and when we advertised for new staff or new personnel in the highway department, we got a real eye-opening awakening of how much salaries are and how many. We got 0 responses. So at the beginning when we had put the ad out, it shocked us. We thought we'd have at least somebody to apply, and Jackson prides itself on the condition of our vehicles, the condition of our fleet, the benefit packages that we have, and so we were surprised, to say the least. So we the selectmen had non-publics to meet with all of the employees and the department heads, and we feel that the salaries that are represented in the budget are fair and deserved for the staff that we have, and in every department, through COVID, through all of the turmoil that we have going on, we feel like the staff deserved the increases that they've gotten and are being paid a fair amount now. You'll also notice past the salaries that our insurance decreased by 9%, and that was our current company. Julie and I went and, we interviewed 2 other companies and did not feel comfortable with the benefit plans that they were delivering. Aside from that, I have a client that I work with that has gone to a different model, which uses the healthcare exchange, and a larger company, under 60 employees, but still larger than the town. And it has not been a positive experience at all. And I feel like we would be putting some of our employees at risk for leaving if we changed to a benefit plan that I didn't feel and Julie didn't feel were as comparable to the plan that we have now in service, in coverage, cost being obviously a large concern. So that was very deeply researched this year. So you'll notice there was a decrease, but not a change in the insurance program. So I think that just making sure that everyone realizes that every department has dealt with the flexibility of being open or closed, and making sure that taxpayers, residents, and visitors are taken care of. I think that we've accomplished that with flying colors. So that's my intro to the operating budget. John, Frank, did you have any other comments before we start line by line?
All set.
Well, is it okay, John, or do you want to speak first?
Go ahead.
Okay, I think everything you said, Barbara, is spot on. I just wanted to say that maybe I come at this in a more unique way, in that I was in this position a long time ago and have worked with a lot of different people from 1988 to 2003, and here I am now, 2022. And the folks that we have working for them are unbelievably dedicated and good. Everything that Barbara said is true. They deserve what we're proposing to give them. And we also know it's a highly competitive world for employees. And we're lucky to keep these people and keep them happy and keep the work that they're doing at the high quality that we expected. They're terrific. I don't have anything more to say than that.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to start on the first section. I think what we did last year is we went section by section. We didn't read each line item, so we'll stick with that. Perfect. So the selectmen's budget is going from 28,248 to 27,768 with a decrease of $480. And the major reason for the decrease is below in the notes that the supervisors of the checklist finished their 10-year document purge in 2021, so we have less hours for them moving forward. Any questions? All right, on the town clerk's office, the difference is really just the salary increase, so it's from 78,366 to 87,372 as the proposed budget. That is a $9,000 increase. I do want everyone else that's looking at this also to look at what our actual expenses are, because you'll see that many times most of the departments come in under budget. So that's something that we really pride ourselves on, and I feel like we do a good job at watching our dollars, even though we have a nice budget put together. So, any questions on the town clerk's office? All right.
I think it's terrific.
Thank you. All right, on the financial administration, goes from 176,987 to 186,331. We did put $10,000 in last year's budget for the short-term rental administration, thinking we were going to have to outsource some of the conditional use permits, enforcement, etc. That was fully absorbed by the staff, and the staff meaning pretty much like Kevin Bennett, Julie Hoyt, Julie Atwell. So we removed that line item and used that to absorb some of the staff, the salary increases. And then we do have the $2,900 increase that was voted on to increase the services on our Avatar contract, which will help many people on the staff. Any questions on that area? All right. Assessing is a 10% increase, and that's our outside assessing firm. And I don't believe we've had an increase in their area for many years. So I'm honestly not surprised to see that increase. So that's a $4,000 10% increase. Any questions? All right, on the legal side, we have $35,000 budgeted last year and this year, and we spent $18,000, which I'm gonna knock wood really on that one. We had a few short-term rental issues. We had a few building permit and driveway permit issues, and we still really are diligent about calling attorney and legal advice when we need to. So I'm pretty happy with that number, but I feel like we have a good cushion in there as well. And whoever hasn't heard, it's in the paper today, but Peter Malia has just been made a circuit court judge in the state of Maine, which is an awesome kudos to him. He deserves it. And so we'll be using one of the other partners in his firm to take over as our legal counsel. But congratulations definitely go out to Peter.
Absolutely.
We can all say we knew him when.
I know. I hope he still would go skiing with me.
Important things.
Yeah, yeah.
Just say, Your Honor, here are your boots.
Yeah. Your Honor, can I ski with you? All right, the next is personnel administration. And again, I mentioned this before, that the insurance went down $17,548, but the New Hampshire retirement is increasing because of it's based on the salaries that are paid to our employees. So the net increase is $9,678 year over year. Any questions on that? All right. Planning and zoning boards, flat budget from last year. So I'm going to assume there are no questions on that. Good assumption. The next is general government parks and buildings. We had $29,500 last year and then $32,500 this year, which is a $3,000 increase. However, this is offset in revenue, so it is actually a wash going through from one year to another. Penny, did you have a question?
Hi, Barb. Yeah, back on the personal administration with health insurance. Can you tell me if the building inspector has health insurance? Has that turned into a full-time position?
Yes, that turned into a full-time position 2 years ago. So he has full benefits.
It also includes time as a fire department though, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
Health officer too.
Fire department and
health officer.
Yeah, health officer. So
It's a three-pronged job.
yes. One more. You're good now? Okay. Gotcha. All right. Building, okay, so on to page 2 with the cemeteries, which budget remains flat on that area. And then this line item is for the insurance for property liability, workers' comp, and unemployment. And that has also decreased
Wow.
by $10,755. So, part of it is because we have a premium holiday that Primex issued, which is a gift. But it went down this year, which we'll be happy to take. So that's reflected in this year's budget. All right. Under the building inspection, this is Kevin Bennett's department. So from 52,880 to 59,000, 11.5% increase, and that is the wage increase. Any questions? All right. The next department is the police department. We're maintaining the same staff level that we have currently, and it goes from 316,220 to 333,001, 5.5% increase, and that is pretty much all budget wages, and then there are a few other allocations that changed, but they're flat. Any questions on that? All right. Under the ambulance, we just had a meeting a couple weeks ago to go over the ambulance budget, and you'll notice it's going down $3,340. That $18,000 is a pretty darn cheap amount to have for the two ambulances and the services that we get. The reason why it's $18,000 is because they almost cover their own expenses for their staffing, their salaries, their equipment, etc., through the rebilling that they do. So the fact that we only have to pay $18,000 amongst the three towns of Bartlett, Jackson, and Hart's Location is really something that shouldn't go unnoticed. Then the other thing is we are going to increase the amount that Hart's Location is paying in. And so Frank and John, I wanted to get your input on this. We had them down in the past probably 8 to 10 years to pay $500, but we looked at the number of calls that they're doing now to Hart's Location, whether they're hiking accidents or car accidents or whatever. So Vicki Garland on the Bartlett Select Board and I discussed what we thought would be equitable for them to put in, and we came up with an amount of $2,500. So if that sounds fair to you, Vicki and I will be calling the Select Board in Hart's Location to get their approval for that.
I was on that Zoom call, and I remember it went from 500 to 2,500 now, which I think is fair. What happens if they don't think it's fair?
Well, they'll have to probably find another ambulance service or use one of the services out of Conway, I would think. John, question?
Yeah, I think the number's fine. I just, I wonder how many of those calls actually were residents as opposed to people hiking, which is not.
Agreed.
This should be absorbed by the hikey.
Yes. Sue Gaudette did give me some really good information on what types of calls they were, and the fact that most of them were not billable because they were either hiking rescues or whatever, and when they came out of them they just declined service, so they couldn't bill for them. So yes, absolutely, many of them are non-residents that are visitors, but part of the tourism, I guess, you have to pay. And what we took as a percentage of total, their calls as a percentage of total calls was, it's still very insignificant as the dollars go. So, Bill?
That's an age-old issue.
Yep.
I've spent 20 years on that squad.
Yeah.
15 years ago. It would behoove the selectmen, at least Jackson, if you could get Bartlett to do it, but all of those rescues or all of those carryouts and all that sort of stuff comes under the jurisdiction of New Hampshire Fish and Game.
Right.
And they got permission from the legislature to bill at their discretion. I think the selectmen should point out to the state and directly from the selectmen in writing that, wait a minute, we're going to Hart's Location, we're going to Pinkham's Grant, and Hart's is really, they're up there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They should take a harder look at that, and I think the towns should say to the state, look, we're doing these things, and we end up not being able to bill. I think the state should look at giving the town some reimbursement money to add to that.
Okay, I will definitely talk to Rick and Sue about that and Joe and see what they have on that because that is huge and
It is.
if it means that they
And
can
look
further
at
cover
the other
costs.
thing, I don't think, if people don't know this unless they provide the services, but in my kayak history world, if you go to if you get shipped to Memorial, they have very, very, very little cardiac resources there.
Right.
9 out of 10 is shipped to Maine Medical.
Right,
And they have a contract with Action Ambulance to provide ground transport. And a one-way, non-paramedic requirement transport from Maine Medical, from North Colony Memorial to Maine Medical in Portland, I know, I did it, $9,750.
yeah,
And they have a policy, they don't want our ambulance doing that.
Right.
They put up a big stink about it because of politics.
right,
But our ambulance service, if you get lucky to Maine Med and it's not a medic call or a helicopter emergency, you ought to try to get, the people in town should ask for Bartlett Jackson. They have a second ambulance for that purpose.
Right, that's what we were trying to do.
And they can do it for
a fraction.
less than
Yeah.
half of that.
Yeah,
It's a
all right,
huge ripoff, just in
Okay.
case you didn't know that, but that's a Memorial issue. that-
Thanks.
Again, Maine Health is
Yeah.
part of Maine Health.
Frank?
We're fortunate to have Billy, I just say fortunate to have Billy's insight into all this.
Yeah.
But I also want to remind people, just imagine in this era of COVID, what these folks in the ambulance squad have to go through, wherever they go.
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing.
yeah,
So just, let's really appreciate what they do for all of us.
agreed. So, if I could have a motion to approve a $2,500 ask from Hertz location versus the $500 that they've been contributing.
I'll make that motion. We go for 2,500 instead of 500. Now, is this negotiable, or is this is it?
This is
As far
it.
as that's concerned?
This is it.
Okay, well, all right. Yeah, I think it's fair amount. And what Billy said, we maybe ought to be looking a little bit more into what kind of charges should be levied as we move
Right.
forward. But again, when you're going to talk to Rick and Sue and Joe,
Yep.
they can determine some of that.
That was second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so moving off of that line item, unless there are any other questions about the ambulance. All right. The next is the fire department, and Jay, are you still on? I see he is, he's muted.
Sounds like it.
Okay, so the fire department is going from 173,402 to 175,065. And there are a couple line items that dropped down. The inspector wages we haven't been incurring, so Jay dropped that down. The training was dropped down from 2,000 to 1. And then the emergency tie roll radios, we dropped that down to 3,000. And we may consider that as one of our ARPA items. So we felt that dropping that down would be prudent. And then the increase is from the wages. Go ahead, Jay.
I think it was roughly 2,000.
Yep. Drop.
Foggy, everybody's doing.
Say that again, Jay?
The only question I got is probably for the selectmen on building maintenance, and if they wanna, whether we wanna think about any changes there, it's not, whether we're gonna think about any immediate repairs that we've been putting off or not. That could be a whole meeting in itself, so we may not wanna get into any discussion. But,
Yep.
I'm kind of curious what the selectmen's thoughts are on that amount. It definitely won't repair much.
Yep. I mean, if I had my druthers, I would put 5.7 million in, but no, I'm kidding. Sorry, just kidding.
Beating a dead
I know, beating the dead horse here. John, did you have any thoughts on that, or?
I think that's probably a good idea, especially if we are gonna purchase the new fire truck, we're gonna have to do a build out on the end anyways, and we said that was about 15 grand. Is that a separate warrant article, or I didn't notice?
No, it's not. Nope.
So, that might be something to consider.
That was gonna be I started my hand up for Jay. I think you guys between now and next budget meeting, you three and you and Jay, we should have serious discussion about what can we do, what should we do, what we need to do, and that really needs to be looked at. Because at this stage, you're minimum 2 years or 2 to 2.5 years away, even if you put something on next year and it's approved of doing anything, and it's in desperate need of some work.
All right,
Also, Chief Henry, I just say one other thing. Chief Henry has mentioned to me that the sprinkler system, protect all our equipment in there would cost about $75,000 and hook it into the town water supply. So, I mean, that's something maybe we should be looking at also.
okay, let's have some information. Jay, can you do some research and we'll make some recommendations for the next select meeting? For the next budget, for the next budget hearing?
Yeah, it would definitely be some discussion there, because, I mean, it kind of depends on what everybody wants to do. I mean, we can spend, you know, I mean, just for an example, the upgrade some wiring that's in desperate need that we've been putting off, I mean, that's $7,000 alone, you know, and so I could easily spend 3 times that line item just on repairs. Just instant repairs.
All right, you want to,
I can spend
you know, we
20.
can revisit your list. Yeah, revisit your list of most urgent items and maybe present that for the second budget hearing. And you and I can talk next week.
Okay. You want me to make a list and get it to all the selectmen so they have that?
Yep, that sounds like a plan.
Great.
Okay. All right, emergency any other questions on the fire department? All right, on the emergency management department, from 8,500 to 10,300, and that is for wages and the for the emergency operations plan that has to be redone. And again, thank you so much, Emily, and your team for all that you do to keep us up to date on the COVID policies, etc. Any questions on that department? Awesome. All right, highway administration. So the first line item broken out separately is the wages. And this went from $215,047 up to $234,184. As you can see, again, I mentioned this came in under budget last year. We have Gary Allen as the new director and manager of over the department, and so we had a little turnover, but kudos to you guys for keeping the roads clean through the storms lately, and that increase is due to the market adjustments. Again, it was quite eye-opening to find out how much it was going to cost to hire new people, so we're glad we have a good staff. And then down below, it's a flat budget across the board for the highway expenses. Again, looking at where we are under budget, we didn't spend much at all. We were right at the line item on, you know, at the number on budget, the highway road maintenance budget at just under $100,000, and that's always our largest amount. And then the highway block grant, we didn't have to use any of that money this year, I guess, so that was the largest reason that it's under budget.
I have a couple of concerns. There's a couple items that are, we went over budget on. I didn't know if that is something like the telephone, internet services, things we might want to increase. I can't see them going down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, even if we bump it up to $32.50 or something, just to cover the amount there. That's
Same with the, I don't know, the training expenses are kind of the same boat.
Gary, maybe you can look into the training line item, because if there are any CDL costs or anything else that you anticipate coming up for any of the guys, just
Yeah, because we had
make
talked
sure you
about
have
that.
enough.
Right,
Yeah, make sure you have enough in that budget.
Okay.
Perfect. And then,
Great.
Hey, Barb.
Can I just say,
go ahead, Frank, first.
oh, just for the record, I just want to thank Pat Kelly, who, you know, left us to work with his family, a family business, what a great job he's done over the years for the town. And also, I had a few comments about the way things have been handled with Gary. The former road agent for the state told me the roads in Jackson have been terrific, and particularly the sidewalks. So I just want to get that out there, that they're paying attention. So we've really made a nice little move from Pat to Gary. We're very fortunate to have him.
Absolutely agree with you.
Thank you.
And who else was speaking? Was that you, Penny?
No, it was me, Julie.
Oh, hi, Julie.
Hi, I just wanted to make a note that that special equipment line.
Yes.
Is actual, I'll put a note in there, but that was due to the loader, cost that was over what we could pull out of the capital reserve, so I'll make a note of that.
Okay, thank you. That always helps. Perfect. Okay. All right, so yeah, we'll look at revamping a few of those numbers and increasing them accordingly. Did you want to say anything about the gravel? No, I'm just kidding. I love to nudge you, John. It's
Ouch.
fun. Okay, any other questions on the highway department? Perfect. All right, solid waste disposal, AKA transfer station. These are numbers that we get from the transfer station, so there's a slight increase in the wages. And again, turnover in that whole area, but from what I've seen and heard, things are running smoothly there,
Yeah,
so.
we've got some solid employees,
Yeah.
solid waste.
Yeah, I see
Solid
what you did
employees.
there. I see
There was
that.
a play on that.
Budgets can be
What was
fun.
John saying? I mean,
He said
John just-
solid employees in the solid waste area.
That's true, but also we got the email today that told us that it's going to cost us an extra $4.50 for hauling fees, so maybe, or tipping fees. I'm not
Yeah.
sure which one it was now.
It was both, actually.
But nothing changes, but it was $4.50 is an increase
Right.
per tonnage.
Right. And that's pretty
Yeah,
Julie
good.
and I
so-
talked about that, we still think we're okay with the numbers.
Okay,
Okay, good.
good. Thank you. Any questions on that? All right. Animal control went from $1,000 to $500. Wow, sweet. Chief Burley, I imagine that's your input? Yes, thank you, sir. Public welfare?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the reason for that is, we absorbed the operations of animal control into the police department when I started 6 years ago. That line item is carried at $1,000. We spend about $500 a year, as it's kind of like a fee associated with using the animal shelter if we have
Right.
shelter dog. Otherwise, we get a daily fee, and we really don't have any other significant additional costs. So I figured I'd drop it to 500.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. Public welfare, we keep at $6,000. And then the library costs from 96.6 up to 101,353, which is an increase of just under 5%. And there's a salary increase for market adjustment there as well. And then the trustee expenses are not funded by the town, so this is an offset with the revenue. Roger?
Just real quick, I may have made a mistake when I gave numbers to Julie,
Okay,
and it has to do with actuals.
okay,
So our actuals it was $101,961 that we spent.
okay. And you know what, if you just want to email those to Julie or get with
Okay.
her, and then we'll put them in for the second budget hearing.
And review it
Okay,
then.
good.
But the budget numbers are going to stay the same for this
Everything
year.
else stays the same except the library trustee expense actual goes up
Okay,
accordingly.
yep,
And that was due to grants that we received during the year.
okay,
Okay? Thank you.
perfect. Thanks, Roger. Any questions on the library? All right. Other conservation, this is for the Jackson Conservation Commission, $1,500, staying flat. Okay. The other culture and recreation, which is our wonderful Hank Benish for our filmed meetings, stays at $4,000, and we appreciate the job you do every time. Really, very nice.
Good job.
Yes.
Very good.
Culture.
Any other questions about that before we go to the next page? All right, Parks and Recreation. $6,700 stays the same, and that's for the Bartlett Recreation Department. It's a flat fee that we pay them each year. Okay, the next line is for our debt service for the bond that we currently have, and that stays at $35,000 for the principal. The interest goes down obviously because our principal is decreasing. And then we have interest for the Valley Crossroad Bridge, and we always keep a budget line item for the TAN interest, which we usually don't have to spend. The interest on the Valley Crossroad Bridge, we're keeping it where it is for now. There's a lot of numbers that are still up in the air because we don't have our new and improved quote on how much the bridge is going to cost. So, any questions on the debt service? All right, Bill?
Yeah, before you go on, there's one thing I should have probably picked up, and I just happened to think, this year, we only have one election, which is the town election, which is very minimal cost.
Mm-hmm.
But for 2022, you have the state midterm elections, you have primary and a regular election,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to require, you might have Julie, between now and next week, take a look at that just to see if you need to squeak some money in for that. It's usually, it's just a comment, that's all.
Okay, Julie, did you hear that?
Yeah, we went from 1,000 to 2,500.
You did, I
There's-
missed it.
Right underneath the selectmen, first page.
Yep.
Oh, it's on select, okay, I was looking
Yep.
at it.
Yeah, that was adjusted.
Okay,
You got it, good, thank you.
perfect.
Thanks for bringing it up,
Thank
though.
you,
That's-
yeah.
We always get snagged with those. Once in a while, we
Right.
miss one.
All right, so that brings our total operating budget from last year's $2,374,832 up to a proposed budget of $2,445,512, which is just under a 3% increase.
2 million.
Oh, did I say that? Sorry, $2,445,512. Gee, I'm not good with numbers, I'm an accountant. It's not a good thing. So that's just under a 3% increase. I'm proud of that number, just sitting by itself right now with being able to absorb the staff increases that we have. And, but we'll see what it looks like when we come to budget hearing number 2 next week with a few of the adjustments that we talked about. Bill?
It's probably way premature, but in at least my opinion and several people I know, that we have a pretty healthy unencumbered fund balance, way over what the state's recommended numbers on the maximum side is. Have you talked at all about potentially reducing your overall to offset what you have to raise? I'm sorry. You put that head down.
We're going to actually be discussing that on the next budget
Okay,
hearing.
yeah, that's
So,
what I figured, but
yeah.
just a comment,
Unless
if
you
you're
want to
not,
chat
where
about
it's just a very minimal increase.
Yep.
Depending on what Jay comes up, that may be an ideal thing for you to look at for repair stuff, so they don't bump this line up much.
Okay, thank you. We will talk about that at the next meeting for sure. And then the agents to expend capital reserve funds, we had $122,000 that we pulled out. That was for the loader, and then for the Conservation Commission, Jackson Falls paving, VCR Bridge, the Valley Crossroad Bridge, and the defibrillator, we had $273,692 that came out of our capital reserve funds this year. And that is all, folks, unless I hear any other questions for our operating budget. Anyone from the public here tonight? Anyone from the Zoom call?
I like that, that's all, folks. I kind of remember that.
Yeah. All right, well, I really appreciate everyone attending, and if there are any questions that come up after the meeting, please funnel through Julie Atwell, and then she can get with the selectmen and let us know, and we can have them for our budget hearing number 2. That will be next week, starting after the 3:30 select meeting, and we will go over warrant articles and the fund balances, etc.
Just one question.
Yes, Emily?
So, I know you just mentioned briefly, you on the agenda here, discuss options for the ARPA funds. Do you want to wait till after budget?
I did not even see that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
It can be,
I would actually like to prepare for that for the next one, if that's okay.
oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
preparation.
All right, yeah,
But
thank
that's
you.
on a regular meeting. Making it, not a, should be on the budget stuff. Should be-
Right, should be before that. Yeah, so we'll have it on the agenda before the next budget hearing. Okay.
Sorry.
So, thank you for bringing that to my attention. So I will take a motion to adjourn the budget hearing.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the budget meeting.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Aye. Frank?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, 4:49.
Not bad. That's like.
Not bad.